Hello and welcome to the Black Hat Bushcraft channel. I'm out once again today practicing on some one-handed ferro rod techniques. And these particular techniques are not ones that I've learned from anybody in particular, but rather things that I've just kind of experimented with to figure out how this best works for me. And I figure if these things work for me, maybe they'll work well for you also, and I thought I'd share each of these particular techniques. So stick with me and let's get started. This will be technique number 2 in my one-handed ferro rod series. All right, to get this arm bound up, should definitely make things more fun. So this stuff's starting to break down really nice. It's giving me some fine, medium, and some coarse material. And in conjunction with that very fine material that I scraped off that piece of tulip poplar with the back of my knife, I should be set. The ferro rod that I'll be using today is one that was sent to me by Rick from the Tac-Hill channel, and I'll put a link to Rick's channel down below. Rick has some awesome videos on one-handed ferro rod techniques on his channel as well, so I definitely recommend you check him out. And Rick, I really appreciate this gift. He actually did all the woodwork to put the handle on this ferro rod, and he did all the tying of the cordage. This also came with a striker, which I'm not going to be using for this particular video today, but nonetheless, I really appreciate this gift, Rick, and it's a really nice ferro rod. The rod itself is a 6" by 1/2" ferro rod, which came from Nathan 4071. And Nathan gets a lot of praise on the quality of these ferro rods that he sells here. And this will be my first time testing one of these out, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it'll do. I've given it a couple little test strikes, and it seems to be of really good quality. But this will be a good way to test it out to see how it does in actually lighting a fire. So once again, Rick, thank you, my friend, for this gift. And it's very appreciated, and it'll be well used. Alright, so I have all my material here, and this really fine stuff up front in this tinder bundle is what I used the back of my knife to generate, and this more coarse material here is what I did with just one hand, as you saw on the camera. Just propping my ferro rod here on this original tulip poplar log that I got my tinder from, and I'm going to take my foot and press up against it here. The other end of the ferro rod is pressed down into the dirt. Regardless of whether you have a handle, lanyard, or any of that stuff on your ferro rod, this method will work just fine. At that point, I'm simply going to take my knife, just the Mora Garberg stainless, and just very easy. So there you go. That's a very simple way of creating fire one-handed with a ferro rod. Just simply prop the rod on the log, brace it with your foot, and then with one hand you can easily strike down and again create fire using a tinder bundle of natural materials. And again, you can see I did all of my processing one-handed as well. So it's really not a complicated process once you practice it a little bit. Well, you can see that wasn't really all that difficult. And even processing down that natural tinder with only one arm wasn't impossible. It's not quite as convenient as doing it with two hands, but it's definitely doable. One thing I say as a disclaimer is you should never really have to process down natural tinder in an emergency with just one arm if you pack the proper materials with you. And in my fire kit, I always have some type of a surefire, either it be a micro inferno or a mini inferno or wet fire, or even cotton balls soaked with petroleum jelly. Anything that you want to carry, even pre-processed fat wood is an option, but something that you can use when you need it the most. For me, I try to always use materials off the landscape when I'm just coming out for fun, and that way I reserve those materials in my pack that are there for emergency purposes. If you have to use those things each time you come out, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that you always replace it so that it's there for you in the case of an emergency. Alright, so I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to tune in for this quick look at a one-handed ferro rod technique. I hope you found this to be helpful. I'll definitely be back with another technique in this video series very soon, and until the next video, take care and God bless.